What's up, everyone? Renfield here, and we are back for another episode of Decoding Dune. Had a little bit of a break because I had Chris and I both got sick, and then we had our 10th year wedding anniversary, so we kind of just skipped a couple of weeks. But we are now back. We're into Chapter 18 of Dune. Now, if you're just now tuning in, watching this for the first time, I've been going through chapter by chapter, reading through and sort of analyzing and asking questions and refamiliarizing myself with the entirety of the Dune universe. We were watching the first film that Denis put out that came out a couple of years ago, sort of in step with these chapters. But I think my last watch through was about maybe 6, 8 weeks ago now. And we're just prepping for the second film, which is coming out. And theoretically, he's doing all three films, or he's doing three films around the first three books in the series, which is Dune, Children of Dune, and Dune Messiah. So we're doing the same thing. We're reading through the Dune trilogy in this Decoding Dune series, or at least that's the plan, chapter by chapter, week by week. And this week is chapter 18 of the first novel by Frank Herbert. If you like what you hear today, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. If you are a Dune maestro and you want to drop tips and tidbits down in the comments below, please do. Always happy to have greater conversations with people who know way more than I do because I'm somewhat familiar with the universe, but I also haven't read this book in 20 plus years. I have seen all the film adaptations, the TV series adaptations, so on and so forth. So at least I know a little bit about it. So without further ado, we're going to get into chapter 18, and as usual, we start with a snippet from a book by the Princess Irulan. This one's called The Songs of Muad'Dib, and this one is a dirge for Jameis on the funeral plane. It says, "Do you wrestle with dreams? Do you contend with shadows? Do you move in a kind of sleep? Time has slipped away, your life is stolen. You tarried with trifles, victim of your folly." One of the things I love about the intros to these chapters is they generally overshadow what the whole chapter is about. So it's a cool little snippet. So you've got the chapter happening in real time, and then Princess Irulan obviously is writing this in the future, but looking back. So you're actually reading it after the fact, which has been cool to see. Like, oh, we know who the traitor is before it actually happens because it's being reflected back to us. So we start off with Leto studying, it says, a note by the light of a single lamp with dawn yet a few hours away still, and he's tired. He's been dealing with a lot of stress over these past few chapters. The threat of everything, people trying to frame his concubine as a traitor, the attempt on his son's life, all these different things. And the note here reads, "A column of smoke by day, a pillar of fire by night." But there was no signature, and he's wondering to himself, what does this mean? It's just another layer of shit that he has to deal with as the Duke, knowing that everyone's out to get him. And it says the messenger had gone without waiting for an answer and before he could question the guy. And so he's now wondering what it's all about, but he's just going to have to ignore it, get to it later. I'll show it to Hawat later. So he's going to push it in his tunic pocket and move on. But it also mentions something very important here is that the anti-fatigue pills he's been taking were beginning to wear thin. So he's been popping caffeine tablets, right? And the effects are wearing off because there's only so long that you could stay amped up on drugs before it eventually catches up with you. It says here it had been 2 days since the dinner party and longer than that since he had slept. So he's been up for at least uh, 48 hours. It says longer, but it doesn't specify how many. Um, but yeah, he's not had a good few days, man. He's also not going to have there are also some very not good times ahead of him too. Um, some self-reflection here about Jessica and Duncan, Idaho, and not taking Jessica into his confidence earlier. Um, he says, like, I got to do it now before more damage is done. Well, the decision, ultimately makes him feel better. This is a moment of him reflecting on the fact that she is more than just his concubine. She is his confidant, or she should be his confidant, even if she's not yet. Ooh, he finds a human corpse face down in the stone. It was the smuggler Tuick who we just met. Ooh, freshly killed, still warm. Oh, there's another body. It says the shape crawled towards him with painful slowness. It was Mapes, the Fremen housekeeper. Um, been stabbed in the back along her side. He picks her up. She's looking at him, and she's like, "Killed the guard, sent to escape. My lady, you here? No." And then she dies. Who just killed her? And it says Tuick. Jessica had sent from Y. As he stands up, a sixth sense warns him. But as he goes for his shield, he's too late. Oh, is this the chapter where he's? Wow, I didn't realize I was already out this point. He looks down. There's a dart protruding from the sleeve. Paralysis is spreading, and there's Yueh. Oh man, Yueh, how? Yueh's telling. Okay, so yeah, this is the whole thing about the drug on the dart is selective. You can speak, but advise against it. Leto's like, it can't be Yueh. He's conditioned. How? He whispers. And Yueh, of course, there are things that will make greater demands than this. He touches the diamond tattoo on his forehead. Um, he says, I find it strange that there's an override on my paretic conscience. He says, I want to kill a man. I actually wish it. I will stop at nothing to do it, but it's not you, my Duke. My dear Duke. It is the Baron Harkonnen. I wish to kill the Baron. Of course, poor Leto at this point. This is the tooth thing. We're putting the tooth in his mouth. Oh, this is a very interesting. You is like, you were dead anyway, my poor Duke. But you're going to get close to the Baron before you die. And you're going to kill him. Remember the tooth. The tooth, Duke Leto Atreides. And Leto, of course, wants to know why. And he does spill the beans. Made a devil's bargain with the Baron, of course, because of his wife. Oh, he also tells the Duke, though, he says, I'm going to do a thing for you in return for your service. I will save your woman and your son. How? Save them, Leto whispers. Says, I'm going to make it appear as if they are dead. Oh, the Duke found that he could not answer, but he feels something tugging at his hand. He sees Yueh's hand come up with the ducal signet ring. He says, I'm going to give this to Paul. Goodbye, my poor Duke. Remember the tooth, he hisses as Duke Leto fades into unconsciousness. Now, this is sort of the chapter where, in my opinion, this is where all hell breaks loose, because everything from here is an explosion of stuff that happens. We've seen it in all the film adaptations, the Sci-Fi Channel adaptation. This is where the action kicks in, because everything at this point is now, there's stuff happening, man. That's a very short chapter, but also a very pivotal chapter in the sense that all this preparation that Duke has been doing, all this, trying to keep everybody alive and everything else against all these overwhelming odds, obviously came to nothing because of the betrayal from within from Dr. Yueh. And we go from here. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. We'll see you next week for chapter 19, everybody. Until then, stay safe and happy reading.